Direct from Liverpool, the home of the 2023 Eurovision Song Contest, this is Pete from Euroversity. Let's talk about the semi-final running order. How good is that? Jumper off and hair fixed, all in the time it took for the title music to come on and off. We're going to talk about the semi-final draw allocation, which happened on YouTube today at 6 o'clock. Semi-final one's draw allocation came out at 6 o'clock, and semi-final two came out at 10 past 6. As we know, since 2013, the draw has not been a random draw. It's been the producers deciding what they think will make the best show. So to try and stop a run of ballads or to try and offset a dance track with something a bit slower, so that the program is as exciting as it can be, rather than opening or closing on a less good song or a more boring song or whatever you think about all of the songs. And that's been going on since 2013. Semi-finals have been going on since, in its current form, since 2008. So that means that we've actually got 28 semi-finals worth of data, and all the televoting data is now pretty much widely available. So as a result, we're able to look at how the running order over the last 15 years has affected your chances of qualifying for the final of the Eurovision Song Contest. Now, we all know the rules of the contest. In each semi-final, anywhere between 15 and 19 songs take part. There's a televote. 12, 10, 8, 7, 6 points, blah, 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 are given out, and the 10 highest scoring songs qualify for the final. And in this video, what we're going to do is look at all that data and say, can we say anything particularly meaningful about that data, and can we predict a person's chances of qualifying for the final from that data? So we now know that the goal of each semi-final is to pick the 10 songs that will qualify for the final. Now, in semi-final one, there are 15 songs to choose from, and you can only choose 10 that will go through to the final. And that means that there are 3,003 possible ways of doing that. If you pick any 10 songs, there are 3,003 different combinations of songs that you could easily get through to the final. So to put it into a bookie's perspective, you've got a 1 in 3,000 odd chance of randomly picking the right 10 songs that are going to qualify. On semi-final two, where there are 16 songs, that number of combinations increases to 8,008. So again, you've got a 1 in 8,000 odd chance of picking the right 10 songs from those 16. If you look at actual permutations, and what that means, you've picked the right 10 songs and you've picked them all in the correct order, there are 10 billion different permutations in semi-final one and over 29 billion permutations in semi-final two. So the chances of picking all 10 songs in the correct order, saying this song will come first, this song will come second, this song will come third, all the way down to 10th, is 1 in 29 billion. So it's a really hard task. Now, thankfully, there's more to it than just random luck. The first question we're going to ask is, where is the average qualifier? And what I mean by that is we've taken all of the performance order of the songs that qualified, and we've worked out the average placing. So, for example, if songs 2, 4, and 5 qualified, we'd work out the averages of 2, 4, and 5 and say what the average position is. What we've then done is looked at the non-qualifiers and worked out what their average position in the draw is based on the positions over the last 15 years or so. The problem that we have is that for each of the 28 semi-finals that have taken place, a different number of songs have taken part in each semi-final, anywhere between 15 to 19 songs. And that makes it very difficult to make comparisons. How can you compare the song that performs in the 18th in the running order if in some semi-finals there was no 18th? And how can we accurately know how well song number 15 performs? In some semi-finals, it closes the show. In other semi-finals, it's only just 3/4 of the way through. So what we have to do is create a common scale for each semi-final. So rather than saying songs 1 to 15 or 1 to 18 or 1 to 19, what we instead say is we go from 0 to 100%, as in the length of the program. So song number 1 is allocated as 0%, and the last song, be it 15, 16, 17, 18, or 19, is allocated as 100%, and everything else is fitted in at even spaces in between. And if you work out the averages, what you get is that the qualifying songs have an average qualifying position of around 55.6% of the way into the draw, whereas the non qualifying songs don't qualify from a position of an average of around about 42%. So all you've got to do is make sure that you sing just after the halfway point and avoid singing just before the halfway point, and you qualify for the final. Easy? No, not quite. Because it turns out if you compare all of the songs that performed around about the 55% mark in the program and compare them to those who performed at the 42% mark in the program, regardless of the size of the draw, they actually have very similar percentages of qualification. So there's no advantage to performing just after the halfway point compared to performing just before the halfway point. So paradoxically, being placed in the average qualifying position doesn't improve your chances of qualifying for the final. So, what we're now going to do is look at certain positions in the draw that may or may not affect your chances of qualifying. So, let's compare the first versus the second song. Across all 28 semi finals, if you go first, 15 out of the 28 songs that went first qualified, compared to 9 out of the 28 songs that performed second. Now, that seems like a bit of a difference, but it's actually not all that significant. Where it really matters is when we go to the period after 2013, when the producers decided to start picking the songs, because then what you find is that only 2 out of 18 songs that performed second qualified for the final. And that means you are 5 times more likely to qualify for the final if you go first compared to being second. Now, does the same thing happen if you compare the penultimate song to the final song? Are you at a disadvantage if you go second to last? Well, no, you're not, because actually 26 out of the 28 songs that performed second to last qualified compared to 25 that went last. So going second last has no disadvantage. So that's good news for the Netherlands. And then finally, we compared what happens if you look at the first versus the last song. And it turns out if you go last, you are 1.6 times more likely to qualify for the final compared to going first. And finally, this chart breaks up all the entrants into groups based on how far into the draw they are. So, for example, 0 to 10 means that they appear in the first 10% of entries in the contest, whereas 90 to 100 means that they're probably the penultimate or the final song. And you can see that if you appear in the 90th to 100% of entries, i.e., the last 2 songs, you've got a really good chance of qualifying. Whereas if you appear in the first 20% of entries, anywhere from songs 1 to 4, you're probably not in a good position for qualifying. Oddly, around about the 60 to 70% mark, so just after halfway, there's a bit of a slump in the number of songs that qualify. And just before the final 2 songs in the 80 to 90th percentile, there's also a problem as well. But you can see that in general, there is a slope upwards towards the end of the program, that your chances of qualifying are higher the further along the draw you are. Now, that all may seem quite confusing. What's all this percentages talk and percentage into the draw? But it's a way of standardizing the fact that different semi finals have got different numbers of songs in them, anywhere between 15 and 19. The bottom line is that if you appear in the first 20% of entries, i.e., songs 1 to 4, you're probably not in a good qualifying position. Particularly songs number 2 and 3, where very few songs are qualified. But if you're towards the end, the penultimate song, the final song, you've got a very strong chance, an almost certain chance of qualifying, although nothing is certain in this contest. But hopefully you can see that the trend is that the further along you are in the contest, the better your chance of qualifying for the final. So what have we learned from this video? Well, there's no such thing as an average qualifying position. Being in the average qualifying position will not actually increase your chances of qualifying for the final, and being the average non-qualifier and being in that position will not decrease your chances of qualifying either. We've seen that there are certain positions that do very well. So if you're the penultimate song or the final song, you've probably got a very good chance of qualifying for the final. If you're song number 2, you used to have a reasonable chance of qualifying, but ever since producers have taken over the running of the draw, you've actually got a very poor chance of qualifying. Now, why is that? Is it because the producers knew about the curse of number 2 from the old days of the contest and decided that they would deliberately put what they thought were poorer songs in? Or is there genuinely some memory quirk that means that people can't remember song number 2, so they don't vote for it? I think this year the BBC have put some very strong songs in position number 2. Malta is a very good song and it follows Norway. And Armenia has a very decent song as well. So maybe they've tried to break the curse of song number two, but we'll find out. As we know, these are just statistics taken over 15 years, and the situation can change from year to year. Nothing is ever certain. We've gone back to a different voting system, so who knows what's going to happen this year. I hope that hasn't confused too many of you. I just thought it was a different way of looking at the running order rather than me making some predictions about who I think will or won't qualify. This is Pete from Euroversity, direct from Liverpool, the home of the 2023 Eurovision contest, saying, I'll see you soon. Bye bye.